Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Utah Business live stream. As I'm sure you're all aware, this is a kind of crazy time that we're all living through, and we wanted to take a moment to address that as a community and as a business community. So, I'd love to introduce you to this podcast. I'm Elle Griffin. I'm the editor-in-chief of
Hello,
Utah
everyone,
Business.
and welcome to another Utah Business live stream.
But I would like to go ahead and hand over this talk to James Jackson and Karen Rodriguez. James Jackson is the head of the Utah Black Chamber, and he is going to lead us in a conversation about how businesses can get involved, how we can support Black businesses, and how we can all be a part of the movement as a business community. So thank you all so much for being here. James, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Elle, and thank you to you and Utah Business Magazine and your team for giving us the opportunity to share some thoughts this afternoon, and thank you all for attending. You know, our hearts are very heavy right now with all that's happening within the last few weeks. You know, not only are we dealing with the pandemic of COVID-19, but we're also dealing with the pandemic of social justice, which has reached its peak. And as you've seen throughout the last couple of weeks, all throughout the nation. And we appreciate all the support that we've received over the last week from people locally here who want to engage with the Black Chamber and how they can help and what they can do to support and engage in the Black community. And we appreciate that so much. And we thought this is the reason why we wanted to put on this webinar, is to share with you how you can actually do that. But I also like to thank, Black Lives Matter of Salt Lake City and Ogden, the two NAACP chapters of Salt Lake City and Ogden, and the Utahns Against Police Brutality, who've not only been leading in the peaceful protests, but actually working on police reform for over the last 6 or so years. NAACP, of course, since the over 100 years, really trying to work on the civil rights for people of color. And so we appreciate you guys for tuning in today. And right now I'm going to turn the time over to Karen Rodriguez, who's the founder of Code and Color, but she's also near and dear to the Black Chamber as our board secretary, our marketing chair and extraordinaire, and also over the last week of what I've seen, a real social justice leader within the Black Chamber. So Karen, I'll turn the time over to you.
Hey, thank you, James. And again, thank you, Al, and the Utah Business for allowing us and giving us this space. So I thought I'd jump right in, right? What is the current movement, and why is this important to us here in Utah and throughout the country and globally, right? And the biggest thing is that this is a movement about making sure that all people, particularly and specifically Black people, have access to both racial justice and social and racial equality. And this matters, and this is important because a lot of people are experiencing overt and not so overt racism throughout the last couple of years. A lot of people think that with the movement, the civil rights movement, everything kind of decimated and racism was over. But we, as a Black community, we're still experiencing some of 400 plus years of history of oppression. And that tends to seep into how we interact with one another, whether that's in the schools, whether that's at work, whether that's just in our communities, especially when we want to buy homes or go to a particular place or look to a particular vendor in order to be able to receive a service. So that's why this whole entire movement matters. Specifically within the last weekend and why we've been protesting, right? The reason why the protests are happening is because we have seen firsthand video footage of Black men in our community being murdered by police. And that's very unfortunate. So there are a lot of people that definitely want to make sure that we see through it and that we see that does not continue to happen. So I wanted to start off by stating that and saying that we're, like James said, we're standing with Black Lives Matter, Utahns Against Police Brutality, and all the different organizations throughout the country that are focused on bringing racial justice to the forefront. So, moving forward from there, I think a lot of people have been seeing some current hashtags, right? Throughout this week, we had some really awesome social movements. And I just want to address three, right? Because everybody was asking us, what's Blackout Tuesday? What was that? Is it a continuing movement? And I wanted to give you guys a heads up. So, hashtag Blackout Tuesday started and happened this last Tuesday. It is a movement that we hope that you continue throughout the rest of your lives. And the reason why I was there was because we wanted to bring about, give people an opportunity to not only post a black square on their Instagram or their social feed, but also be able to allow for black stories to be able to come to the forefront on their social feed. And not only use that, but use that day specifically to use their dollars to provide money and go and buy from black businesses. We have a ton of black businesses in Utah that a lot of people were not aware of. And if you're looking to find that, you can go to the Utah Black pages on our website, as well as Black Lives Matter's website, Black Lives Matter Utah. So that's the first hashtag. The second hashtag was the show must be stopped, must be paused. And why does that hashtag exist? Well, a lot of it was started by two black women in the music industry as a call to action for a lot of the music industry executives to be able to stand with black lives and support black lives. We are all seeing the influence that black music and our black community has, the impact that we have across pop, hip hop, country, every genre. And so we wanted to make sure that those people were held accountable, so that they could not only make a statement, but create and institute policies within the music industry to support Black artists. So we just encouraged individuals to not stream anything across any platform for that day. So that was Tuesday, and to raise that awareness. And the last one that I wanted to mention was Amplify Melanated Voices. And that's still going on. That was an initiative also created by two Black women. And it was essentially created just from June 1st through June 7th to allow those Black stories to come to the forefront and to help anybody who isn't a part of the Black community kind of examine, right? Like, how many people in your circle or how many people are you following that are showing you what black people are experiencing, so that you can learn about why the Black Lives Matter movement and why racial justice is important. So that being said, I think that because we're talking about business, we need to just start to acknowledge how and why diversity and racial justice matters in the workplace. So I'm going to hand it over to James so he can give us a lowdown on that.
Thanks, Karen, for informing us about those hashtags. I myself was re-educated again about all those different hashtags, and I hope you guys were well informed with that as well. Before COVID happened, I was myself and a small team were educating individuals and companies about the importance of diversity and inclusion in the workplace. And now we see this more than ever of why diversity matters. Diversity brings dividends. When someone is able to bring their whole selves to work, no matter their background, their ethnicity, their gender identity, or their sexual orientation, their religion, when they're able to bring their whole selves into the workspace, it unlocks so much more potential of using their skills and abilities. That brings new thoughts, ideas, perspectives into the environment to where your company can be more innovative and grow your customer base and be more reflective of the community that you serve. And that's basically why diversity matters. When you put a cap on that and they don't feel as welcomed into their environment, then you limit that person's potential to really grow and really share what they can really do within their career, within that team, with working with their colleagues. I'll share with you just a quick little story. When I was 12 years old, going into 7th grade, It was my very first big public speaking event, and I was flying into Los Angeles, California for a big event that my grandparents invited me to attend, and I was going to speak into hundreds of old Black folk. I was so nervous, but I was excited to, at the same time, to make my grandparents proud. And during that time, it was, the night before I was going to speak, and my grandparents are very nervous, and I really didn't understand why at the time. And as I look back, I realized, they didn't want to leave the hotel room. It was the first time we ordered room service in the hotel. And my grandparents, they grew up in the dirty South in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and very penny pinchers, very cheap, really. So room service was new to me. And why they did that is because they didn't want to leave the hotel, because the officers of the Rodney King trial were just acquitted and riots were starting to happen. And so they didn't want to leave the hotel. They wanted to be sure that we went to the event during the day to make us feel more safe. And unfortunately, we weren't near where the riots were taking place. But just being there and my parents educating me on all that gave me a little bit of an anxiety. And I went back to school that next day, and kids, you know how kids act, right? They have this immaturity about them when they don't really understand the situation, and they're just talking about it and, giving me these looks and stares and talking about themselves, even though I'm there and I'm hearing all this stuff. And it was a very uncomfortable few days for me to be engaged in that. So fast forward to now, here we are 30 years later, still experiencing the same type of situation. And thankfully for COVID-19, the opportunity for people of color to actually work from home, because imagine the anxiety that we feel right now, the conversations that are happening, knowing that we are in a nation that has different thoughts and views and perspectives that are so divided right now that already make conversations uncomfortable. And adding this extra level to it, a lot of people are thankful that we can work from home so we wouldn't have to deal with these conversations. But I'm here to say that, it's time that we really need to have these conversations. And that's why it's important that we create a workplace of inclusion to make people feel comfortable, to really be able to share their anger, their frustration amongst their colleagues, amongst their leadership, so they can really do their work and not hide back their tears, their frustration. Things are tense. When someone is not able to just release, then they're not going to be as productive. And that's what our community is looking for right now. Just the way that we can go into our workspace with a sense of release, that we have a company that we work with that has our back, that has our support, and just letting us know that we're okay there. So I'll turn the time over to you, Karen, if you want to add any more thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I agree with you, James. I think that the conversations that we're having in our workplaces, there are a lot of people that are experiencing trauma right now. And there are a lot of people that are just, because of the heightened state that we're living in, they're waking up to see what is happening, and they want to learn what they can do, because for a very long time, though we've been talking about these issues, it hasn't really been as tense, and it hasn't kind of made that clash where people feel like now is the time for them to take action. I will say that some of my colleagues, their concern is what are going to be our experiences, not only in the workplace, but outside, and how will our colleagues from work kind of be there for us, right? Because we are experiencing a bit of exhaustion. And I was talking with a couple of folks yesterday about what that looks like, right? Like, we need to provide some type of self-care for our community, because we want to do the work, we want to educate folks, but there's also, we need to balance that along with some self-care for us as well. But that being said, I because we're so appreciative of what people want to learn, and because we've been getting so many requests for how people can educate themselves, I thought maybe we could dive into what are some steps that companies can begin taking right now to address diversity, inequality in the workforce, and supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. Any thoughts on that, James?
Yeah, I've actually seen a few examples actually. I work for Zions Bank Corporation, and there are some executive leaders in place, like the CEO of Zions Bank, Scott Anderson, and our CIO and EVP Jennifer Smith, and a very heartfelt message about their stand against racism. And I've seen other messages being sent out by leaders as well. And I really appreciated those messages and those that are just really heartfelt. Now, there was some other messages that I saw that were just a very blanket statement that you felt like they did it because they knew that they had to do it.
Yeah, because
and it was kind of a blanket type statement. But the ones that, the ones that actually came from the heart that really made me feel like I have that support from that leadership. So one is make sure the leadership does make a statement that's heartfelt and that they're ready to listen. I think that's the biggest piece of communication right now, is to listen. And not only just to listen to respond, but listen to understand. We're in the space right now where all we're doing is listening to respond. We're hearing what other people are saying, and we're immediately ready to respond at the first thought that comes to our mind because we already have this perspective in place, and everybody has these walls built up. But now is the time that we actually listen to understand. Leaders need to listen to understand. Listen to our frustrations, our anger, and what our thoughts are about how we can make our workspace more inclusive and how we can feel more comfortable having these conversations, because they're not easy. They're very challenging. It takes a lot for someone just to speak out about these things. But the more comfortable and more inclusive you make it, the more progress you can make within the company to move forward and people feel more welcome.
Absolutely. I think it's also probably really good to mention that, there are, aside from making the statement, right, you need to make the statement, but you need to back it up, right? Because your employees are looking not only to feel heard and feel valued at this very moment, but to feel like the company is taking some actionable steps to ensure their safety and that they are heard and that they can grow within the company. So just a thought of some of those steps, that some companies can begin to take right now is just starting with some third-party audits, right? Audit your employee base. Establish the president of the makeup of the company, right? What does your company look like? So that you can begin to understand, okay, if I only have a certain amount of Black individuals in my workforce, what do I need to do to make sure that I increase that number? Or that also that if there are people who are Black or who are a part of another minority group, that they have what they need in order to be able to grow into a leadership position. So you could start there. The next step that we've put together that we think that is very important is establishing a Dni team. These usually live within the people operations or HR departments of a company. We are, we think wherever it fits best for your company would be great. But we heard from a leader, actually, I think she is from Zions Bank as well, James. Her name is Neelan Sham. Mm-hmm. And she advocates for more than just a chief diversity officer, right? We are asking companies to provide those chief diversity officers with a group of individuals who are going to be able to help them do the work. We need the resources to be able to support and amplify people's voices within the company. The third step is unconscious bias training. We need that now more than ever. As I mentioned earlier, when we were talking about why does this movement matter, what is it, right? I address that we see racism seeping through all types of different interactions. Sometimes we don't even mean for us to say something that might come off as insensitive. So that's why that kind of education and unconscious bias training or anti-racism training is very important to institute in your company. And the also another initiative would be to transform your HR practices. Extend your outreach to other schools that are non-conventional. Go to other job recruiting sites that connect you with folks who are a part of the minority groups, right? So we're in Utah, right? And we're specifically talking about Utah businesses. And for those Utah businesses that may not be as connected to HBCUs, so historically Black colleges and universities, I would say to them to start really looking into that and tapping into that type of great workforce, because we have some phenomenal Black students ready and eager to take up some jobs. They're willing and able to move to a new state, and they want to grow, right? So let's extend them the opportunity to come to Utah and become a part of our Utah thread and our Utah business thread, and just amplify the culture here, make it better, right? Whether in our workforce or out in our communities. Another place that you can go and look for individuals to join your company are more diverse groups and recruiting forums. So a lot of companies, we tend to use Indeed or LinkedIn. But if you're a Black individual, like I said, when you're going to these colleges and you're, entering into a Black professionals network, you are really tapping in with your community and you're going with where your community is going. So I'll give a really brief example about myself. I did a Google internship in 2018, and I was working and super engaged with another group of 25 Black women who were there to learn about joining the business community, joining the entertainment business, and joining the tech workforce. And, we didn't talk about joining LinkedIn. We talked about JobWell, because a lot of Black professionals, that is where they go to find a job at a company where they feel like they're going to be welcomed. So, I encourage you, if you are in a position of power or you're in HR department, to start expanding your outreach and looking for talent in places like JobWell, diversity.com, iHispano, Black Career Network, Tequeria, and other places like that, because that's where you're going to find the folks that are going to be able to diversify your workforce. Lastly, I wanted to note that during this time, and again, at all times, because I think it's important to note that this is not just a 1 week event. This is a struggle and a fight that we are going to, that we're marching towards together, and it requires long-term work. It also requires long-term support. So for any companies who are here, any leaders in companies who are here paying attention to this webinar, the last thing that I would say is put out in your statement or set up a program within your company that allows you to have a giving campaign. Whether that's your company making a statement by providing and donating to a particular cause, or whether that's by matching employee donations to the particular cause of their choice. Any other thoughts on that, James?
Yeah, I would also say with that, and I appreciate those thoughts. Those are great. Many companies do have an employee resource group team. There are a couple of companies that are members of the Black Chamber where they leverage their employee resource groups, their Black Employee Network, or whatever they call those groups to. They use those to interact with all the diverse communities to build those relationships. When you talk about recruiting, the Black Chamber, for example, we work together and collaborate with so many of the Black organizations here. I mean, believe it or not, there are over a dozen Black organizations within Utah to connect with and grow. So when you tap into one, you're tapping in with nearly the whole family. And we do that to build not only the relationships within the Black community, but we want to say that we want to introduce you to the qualified Black talent that is in Utah. And so when you mentioned all those different platforms where you can start building into a pipeline locally, there's great pipeline just within the Black community networks that we share. And we love to introduce you to, the professionals that we have here. And that helps create what we set a vision of about a year and a half ago, we call it changing Utah's diversity landscape. Because I know many companies are thinking, why would a Black person want to come to Utah? It's not even diverse. So let me share with you that, change the perspective on Utah. We have a great foundation already in place, a tight-knit community, family foundation, a growing diversity, and an awesome economy. And the more visibility that you give to the diversity in Utah, then the more attractive it can become for those individuals to come out and see that there's so much more potential, that they have a community here that they could connect with and thrive with.
Agreed. I definitely agree with that. Thank you so much, James. The next thing that I think that people want to hear about is, okay, so that's what the company can do, right? But what can I do as an individual, and how can I, as an employee of these companies, how can I start taking a stand in this movement? What are your thoughts?
Well, I know a lot of people are reaching out to the Utah Black Chamber, and they're like, how can I help? And honestly, it's been a little overwhelming over the last week. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this has been great for the Black Chamber, and it's sad that it came from these type of circumstances. We're usually averaging 1 or 2 members, maybe 3 members a month, and we're approaching 200 members now. But we've literally had someone join the chamber every single week. And just to share with you, the Black Chamber is not just for Black individuals. Only 60% of our membership is Black, and we have membership levels from students, individuals, nonprofit, home-based, small business, and then we have our corporate levels on up. So you just come in where you fit in. And we have so many different committees. For example, Karen is head of our marketing team, and she does a phenomenal job, and we're always looking for help. So not only are we looking for your monetary resources, you can donate to the chamber all day long, but we want to use that donation more as a membership to really engage with us. We want all hands on deck right now to really push forward our efforts of building Utah's Black economic community, and dedicate your time, your skills, your abilities. We've had a few people reach out to us, say, hey, I'm an accountant. How can I help these Black individuals? I do graphic design. How can I help there? And not only within the Black Chamber needs that help, but all the other different organizations are looking for that same help. All of these different organizations, of course, a nonprofit, and we thrive off our sponsorships and donations. And where we fail and where we struggle is with grants and grant writing, because we simply don't have that much education or bandwidth to really put that in place. So we're a volunteer army, most of these organizations. We have no paid staff. And so we're looking for all the help that we can get to really push this forward. And the more help that we receive, the more we're able to, improve our cause, our mission to elevating Utah's Black community, which further elevates Utah's diversity, which further elevates the visibility of Utah overall, being an attractive environment for people to thrive. And so that's kind of in a nutshell of where we stand in with the Black Chamber. We also have a foundation that we started and we launched earlier this year with the 3 programs. One was the Everyday Entrepreneur Program, which is being partnership with the Small Business Development Center, basically taking an idea into a business and within an 8-week time period. We also have our Leadership Pathway Program that we're working with Western Governors University. And we're looking for mentors and facilitators to really catapult this 15-week program to increase diverse leadership in corporate government and nonprofit organizations. And then we're hopefully in the 5-year plan integrating those 2 programs into what's called the Black Success Center, which is a center we're going to build into an economic development hub for Utah's Black community. So we're taking donations to look for the space to build it. We're going to pilot this program out of one of our members' space in northern Utah. He has a space that he's developing right now with a few incubator spaces, some meeting rooms, and that's what we want to put in the Salt Lake area. And we want to build this center here to expand the incubator and the meeting spaces for us to really elevate Utah's Black community even further with the education, training, and resources. Is there anything else that I missed there, Karen?
No, I think that's phenomenal. I will say that I want to add a couple more things to that. Outside of joining the Black Chamber, there are some phenomenal resources. And a lot of you, if you're following us on our Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn pages, or if you're popping over to our website on the regular, you will be seeing these resources come through here in the next week. And one of the things that we are really encouraging is for you to take action, right, and partake and stand in this movement by partaking in anti-racism work. So in partnership with KRCL and other leaders in the community, we're organizing and we're partaking in some anti-racism workshop groups throughout the next 3 months to allow people to have the space to learn in the community about how to affect change in their own subgroups, right? And become a bit more educated about unconscious biases. The second thing is some immediate things you can do right now is learn about what's happening. There are wonderful documentaries and books that you can begin to read to get more into the know as to why this movement matters, right? So I just wanted to highlight a couple of those. We have 13th, which is going to go through about and talk about the racial injustices within the prison system and the scope of the school to prison pipeline. American Son, Dear White People, King in the Wilderness, See You Yesterday, The Hate You Give, and When They See Us, which is phenomenal and really, really poignant. If you're looking for something a little bit light that's not a documentary, but perhaps a movie that showcases that racial bias and how to overcome that. One of my favorites, honestly, I'll give you 3. I love American History X, which is about a young man whose dad and some other people in his community, they kind of brainwash him and teach him not to like people of color. And through it kind of walks through his whole entire journey of what it's like to get rid of those biases, and then actually take some actionable steps to get rid of that in his community. The second one that I love wholeheartedly, and I actually just watched it with my husband, is A Time to Kill, which is with Matthew McConaughey and Samuel Jackson. And it's about a trial of a Black man who hires a white lawyer in the South to help represent him as he's walking through, the fact that he murdered 2 men that raped and attempted to kill his daughter. And so that movie, they're going to talk about what the difference is between those 2 groups, right? And how they come together. Matthew McConaughey as an ally to represent Samuel Jackson. And honestly, it's really beautiful and has a beautiful message. So I would recommend those. We've had a lot of folks reach out to us about book recommendations. So I thought I'd give you guys a couple of my favorite ones. If you've seen them on our social and you want to learn a little bit more about those, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to share a little bit more info on those. But White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibrahim X. Kendi, The New Jim Crow, one of my favorites, all-time favorites, by Michelle Alexander. Divided Sisters by Midge Wilson and Kathy Russell. And The Wretched of the Earth by Franz Fanon. And you can find a lot of these, like I said, across our social media. And you'll also find that those resources on our website here in the next week. And lastly, the other thing that people have asked us about is how they can begin to donate, right? And James touched on a very important point. You can, here with the Black Chamber, we encourage you to donate, but we also really encourage you to join, because when you join our group, when you join the Black Chamber, you are not only donating your money, but you are spending the time to understand and do some of that deconstructive racism work alongside us. Think of us as a guide, a community of people that want to rise to the top together and really want to work together towards a common goal. So we really want you to join the chamber and use that as a tool to become more educated about your community. That's how you can donate. If you also want to donate locally, we also encourage you to donate to Black Lives Matter Utah, which is, their team needs the help. They need the support. They're putting things together to pass legislation. If you can't donate with your money, then sign a petition, call your legislators, and let's talk about the policies that we're pushing forward to eradicate police brutality and to make sure that they also to get unconscious bias training as a country, right? Overall, I think that Lex Scott from Black Lives Matter Utah has even posted on their Facebook page and asked individuals to begin calling Nancy Pelosi about this initiative and kind of bring that initiative to the forefront. The other organization that we have here, as James mentioned, is the NAACP. We have a couple of chapters here in Utah. And just to give you kind of an idea, right, since 1940, the NAACP's Legal Defense and Educational Fund has been fighting for racial justice throughout the country. It was founded by Thurgood Marshall, and the organization has been seeking structural change to achieve equality for all Americans. Again, that's all Americans through nonviolent actions. So we encourage you, the same way that you get become a member with us, you can become a member with your donation. You can become a member of the NAACP to also stay up to date on how to take actionable steps towards racial justice in the state of Utah. I think that's for our state. There are other organizations. You can go to our social profiles to check out. There are organizations throughout the country like George Floyd Memorial Fund, Grassroots Law, which was started by Lee Merritt and Sean King, who are phenomenal advocates in the space. We have Campaign Zero, who we are working with, U.S. Black Chambers, and many others that I said you can find on our social channels. But we really just want you to become a little bit more educated and to donate to these causes that are really working towards making sure that all of us have equal opportunity in and outside of the workspace. Thank you so much. I think that's the majority of what I have. Any other thoughts, Elle or James?
Yeah, if I can just chime in real quick and just piggyback off what you said to provide us some more the resources. So you talked about the different organizations that people can go donate to, and supporting Black-owned businesses is one of the big things, because that really helps impact and elevates our community here as well. And people have been asking, where are the Black businesses at? And you mentioned, Black Lives Matter Utah has a sheet that they've been adding businesses. And we also have a website, utahblackpages.com. And we're right now working to combine those documents together and make it more interactive and user-friendly for you guys to access. And on those pages, you'll find the nonprofit organizations as well that you can donate to and work with. So, look those up and research them and find the ones that that resonates with you the most to get educated on and, affiliate yourself with. And if you'd like to reach out to us, and we can educate you guys about the different Black organizations here as well. And just like Karen said regarding joining the chamber, yes, we appreciate you donating the money, but when you become a member, you actually are engaging with the Black community, and we want to elevate you as well, whether you're a business owner or just a business professional, get you connected to our network, get your business introduced to not only just the Black community, but we have a Living Color Utah collective, which is the other 5 minority ethnic organizations within Utah that looks forward to building these bridges. And that's what the Black Chamber is all about. I remember, earlier on, and I still get this question every now and then, which leads to why people need to get more educated. Or why do I start a white chamber, and what that look like? And I'll always respond that, yeah, what would that look like? Because it's basically going to be all the other chambers around Salt Lake right now. The idea of the Black Chamber is what we're doing right now, creating this visibility, adding diversity into the narrative about Utah, building the bridges between corporate government and local leadership so people can see what we're doing culturally and economically to add and to contribute into Utah and continue to build those bridges. And so that's what the allyship is about, is building these bridges, making our voices heard for each other and become little more united. Forget this division piece. It's time to, within our nation's writing, with united we stand. And that's what we're looking to do. And also regarding the Black Success Center, you can go to blacksuccesscenter.com and that will take you to a donation page and you can donate there. We're also looking for, sponsorship type donations as well. So if you're looking for more interaction within our foundation, you can contact me directly and we can talk about, the different sponsorships that take place, for potential board participation, community representation, and just lending your hand and resources, right? Whether you're a real estate developer, city planner, or, you have access to office equipment, or you're good at grant writing, any of those resources can not only help us within the chamber and the foundation, but all the other organizations as well. And so we appreciate any type of help you can give, your time, your money, your resources, skills, and abilities. That's how you can contribute to this movement. And we want to kind of help you and direct and navigate you to the different ways that we can make that happen for you. Anything else, Karen, before we get into like a few minutes of some Q&A?
No, I think let's dive right in. I'm excited to see what questions people have.
One person did remind me to mention, we do have the Get Hired Summit coming up on August 12th and 13th. The Utah Diversity Career Fair is teaming up with Mentorly and RevRoad and a few other organizations to do a virtual career fair August 12th and 13th. And there's going to be a diversity and inclusion track. So if you're a company that's looking to increase your diverse workforce, you can go to gethiredsummit.com to get more information, register as a sponsor. And if you look to participate within the DNI breakout sessions, if you feel like you're someone who can contribute as a speaker or moderating on a panel or be on the panel, then feel free to reach out to us about that. Also, I mentioned Living Color Utah, we do have the Living Color Gala that's coming up hopefully soon. COVID is really playing with us right now, but I think we're good to go for maybe in October. So we're looking for some sponsorships and some silent auction donations that will help improve our missions within all the different organizations that participate in Living Color Utah. Not only the Black Chamber, but the Hispanic Chamber, Asian Chamber, LGBTQ+ Chamber, the Pacific Island Business Alliance, and Young Professional Salt Lake. Each of us are looking for silent auction donations. Oh, go ahead, Karen.
And disability folks as well. There's a Disability Law Center. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. There will be a reception beforehand with some entertainment, and we like to push some silent auction donations there, and also look for sponsorships with that event. And you can go to Utah Business website for more information about the Living Color Gala.
And I had one question for you, James.
Sure.
Are there openings still for people to nominate folks who should receive an award this year?
Those nominations closed last week, and so we're going through the process right now. Our committees are getting together and looking through all those nominations. We received around 40 nominations we're going to go through and decide who the honorees will be for that event.
Thank you. All right, let's dive into some questions. Elle, would you happen to have those for us?
You texted me the questions to me. Yeah, so those were the one about the Utah Diversity Career Fair is the one that came up as of right now. That's the only question. So good job, Karen. You did really well with this. I guess we provided some good content for people to resonate with.
Awesome. All right.
So with that, I guess we can give you guys 15 minutes back to your day. I don't have anything else to add, but once again, Utah Business Magazine, Elle Griffin and your team, thank you so much for hosting this session. And for those that attended, I hope you benefited by sharing and that you received this information, really know how to use your voice. Be an ally for the Black Lives Matter movement, be an ally for the Utah Black Chamber and the other Black organizations that are working to make changes and improve the Black community here in Utah and nationwide. And with that, I thank you guys. And Karen, anything else you'd like to add?
That is all. Thank you so much. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any more questions or if you want to get involved, go ahead and go to our website as well as our social channels if you'd like to stay in touch. And again, those are always the same. So utahblackchamber.com or across all of our social channels is the Utah Black Chamber. Thank you so much, you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, guys.